My name is Lauren Daniels. I'm the owner and CEO of Sumptuous Spirits. We're a bartending company here based in Detroit. We curate bar experiences that amplify cocktails. So we do it via events, bar services, and digital content. So our team, we have over 20 plus bartenders here locally in Detroit. We also recently expanded to Illinois. We're also available in Ann Arbor, East Lansing, Grand Rapids. So just all over providing bar services for some of your favorite brands. Of course, Detroit Startup Week, Google, WeWork, Fashion Over, Foot Locker, Bumble, you name it, we've done it. So I just want to thank you guys for tuning in the last session of Detroit Startup Week. Hopefully everyone has had a great week and have enjoyed the session thus far. I'm so excited for this Cocktails and Combos. We're wrapping up with the female founders. And right now we have Ashley Woods Branch of Detour Detroit with us. Welcome, welcome.
Hi, Lauren. Thank you so much for having me. I did already start drinking, but I'm here for your cocktail and we'll have no problem double fisting today. It's been a week.
Yes, I know it has been, and I'm just happy that we're able to get your weekend off to a good foot, with a good cocktail and something smooth and good to drink. So we're waiting on our other speaker, Ashley M. Williams. She's the founder of RIZZARR. We're just waiting for her. Jacob, he's been with us all week long. He's been working with us. He's been great. He said he would fill in with Ashley, but he is not a female founder. And that is okay, Jacob. We really appreciate you working with us this week. It has been awesome. Grant said, fake it until you make it. That's right. So we just want to thank you guys for joining us. We have a great conversation in store. But of course, before we get started, we are going to start with our Friday cocktail, which today we're going to actually make My Work Wife. So I'm going to show you guys what that cocktail looks like, and we will talk through the details and of course make it with you guys. So this is My Work Wife, and of course all week our cocktails have been sponsored by Two James. We're going to be using our Old Cockney gin with 1 ounce of lemon juice, some simple syrup, basil leaves with 2 strawberries, and of course the lemon peel garnish. Sponsored by Two James. This gin is amazing. The bottle is beautiful. You guys will love this cocktail. If you aren't able to make it with us, of course, you can sip on whatever you're sipping on at home. And then we'll just enjoy, obviously, making the cocktail today and then just having some good conversation. All right. So, Ashley, are you ready?
I'm so ready. I got my lemon. I got my knife. Let's go, girl.
Let's go. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to grab whatever you have to make it. So whether it's your shaker, if you don't have a shaker, it's okay. You can use a cup to pass the cocktails back and forth, muddle, mix things like that to mix your ingredients. If you don't have a jigger, which is what we use to measure our cocktail, you can also use a tablespoon. So whatever it is in ounces, you'll just double in tablespoons to get the equivalent. And then for muddlers, which we'll be muddling today, we're getting real fancy today. You can just use a wooden spoon to just muddle whatever ingredients you're using to mix and mash those things up. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our strawberries and our basil in our shaker here. So the recipe calls for 2 strawberries. I've cut mine up a bit just to make sure that it gets completely muddled so it doesn't get stuck into our shaker here. So I'm putting these in there. And then, of course, your basil.
I love that the recipe specified 5 leaves of basil. Like I felt very particular, like a beautiful Italian bartender doing that. So thank you.
And you feel like, oh my God, if I have 5 instead of 4, 4 instead of 5, you're gonna mess up.
Serious. And I also picked off my little basil plant, so I felt even cooler. So
you were ready. So this is gonna be good then. Yes, this is perfect. So once you get everything in here, you're gonna take your muddler and you're gonna muddle your ingredients. And you want to make sure you get it good and muddled. You don't want it to get stuck in your shaker. And of course, you want to get that good basil and strawberry that is in your shaker in your drink, which is going to be really good. The aroma of this is already amazing, I'm telling you. If you like basil, have had basil, you understand that, you know, it's a really strong, very a good ingredient in any drink or any thing that you're making. So once we do that, I'm going to let Ashley finish getting her muddling.
Muddle, man.
Yes, I see you're ready. All right. And then I see Ashley's trying to get in, Nina or Jacob, if either one of you guys can help her as we're continuing the presentation today. All right, so now we're going to put some ice into our shaker. And you don't have to use too many cubes. I already say 4 or 5 is good. And that will just be enough that you can make it so that it, you know, you can shake it and chill it without oversaturating it. All right, so now we're going to grab our 2 ounces of gin. Now feel free to eyeball it. You know, you can eyeball it. Whatever you need to do, you can eyeball
By
it.
eyeball, you mean double it?
Whatever you want to do. I always say whatever tastes good to you is the way the cocktail should be made.
I appreciate that.
Yes. So I'm going to put in my 2 ounces. All right. And then we're going to put in our 3/4 of simple syrup. So simple syrup is, you know, it's literally just sugar and water mixed together. So if you want to make your own simple syrup, you can, or like me, you can buy your simple syrup. So we're just going to get that here. And so right now I'm pulling out my my lemon juice. So again, this is a very aroma-y cocktail. It's really good, really flavorful. You get the lemon, you get the basil, plus the gin, of course. It's going to be absolutely awesome. So we're going to put our lemon juice here. And that's 1 ounce of lemon juice.
All right.
All right, you got everything you need? Awesome. So while you're getting that stuff together, I'm just going to put some ice in my cup here. I have a stemless martini glass. I'm going to take a few cubes. So I'm going to get a little fancy today. I have my stemless martini glass.
Oh, that is fancy.
Yeah, you know, it's just nice. It's like fancy enough. We're not getting too crazy.
You know, I use fancy glasses a lot more now. You know, I feel like when I was a kid, I was like, drink, right? Like, it doesn't matter what it is. But now that I like try to drink less and drink better, I really savor the glass that I'm in, which is why I'm going to be using this today.
Yes, and see, oh, that's a nice one. That's going to be good.
I always like the coupe.
Darn it.
Yes. So, okay, so now whatever's in your shaker, we're going to go ahead and shake that up. You want to get it nice and mixed because, again, this is a really nice, like easy but simple craft cocktail. You want to get all of those ingredients mixed there. And we are going to pour it into our glass like so. Now we're going to garnish with our lemon peel. Now, one thing that I learned a long time ago is that the first sense that people get, even before they taste their cocktail, is that they get the smell. So if you want, you can kind of put the lemon peel kind of around the rim of your drink so you can get the aroma of the lemon. and then you can garnish here in your cocktail. Hi, Kenneth. How are you? Thank you for joining us today. Everyone who's here, let us know, what are you drinking on this Finally Friday? Whether it's just your coffee or if you have a cocktail, let us know. It's Friday. It's the last session of the day. We're going to enjoy a good drink. So, Ashley, were you able to make your cocktail?
Here I am.
Yes. All right. So let's cheers on 3. 1, 2, 3. Cheers.
Stravia.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, that's good.
Jerry is drinking a raspberry lemonade. We got a caipirinha. Oh, those are delicious.
Oh, I love a caipirinha. I would love to learn how to make one of those. That's one that I haven't tackled yet. So that's very cool.
Yes, that one's good. Let's see what else we got people drinking here.
Yeah, Kenneth, I've also made a terrible caipirinha before, so I'm with you. I would need some help.
Yes, we got a Modelo. Hi, Jacob's drinking coffee and cocktails. Mariah is drinking a mango margarita. You guys are really drinking today. That's going to be great. This is going to be a really good session. Hi, Ashley.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you and see you. We're all
flipping tech issues. I do need a drink. Okay.
So you're drinking your red wine?
I went for my red wine today. I was reading like.
Listen, I totally understand. What red wine are you drinking?
Cabernet.
Okay. I love a good Cabernet. Awesome. Well, now that we have everybody here, cheers. Thanks, Sherry, for joining us. Cheers. We're excited. We have our cocktails in hand. So let's go ahead and get started with these introductions. Ashley Woods Branch, if you don't mind, first by just introducing yourself to everyone. Let them know who you are before we jump into our convo.
Sure. So like you said, I'm Ashley Woods Branch. I'm the founder of Detour Detroit. So we're a local newsletter startup. We reach about 15,000 readers right now through email, another 100,000 every month. And we report about Detroit through an equitable focus. And we also try and make it fun to care about the news. I worked at the Detroit Free Press before I struck out on my own. I've been a founder for 2 years. I'm also a stepmother, a newborn mother, a wife, and a sous chef in my spare time because my husband's a chef.
How cool. And yes, congratulations. We were talking all about babies. My son just recently turned 1 in April. And so I understand getting that newborn, just getting used to a whole new baby. So I totally understand it. Congratulations to you.
Thank you so much. Yes, Kenneth, I do get a lot of good dinners. My husband's not only a good chef, but he's a nice one. So he gets a lot of dinners and he doesn't complain when I try and cook his back.
Yes, and thank you for dropping that link in, Kenneth. Thank you so much for joining us. Ashley Williams. I'll make sure I'll forget them. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us. Tell everyone about
Thank you
yourself.
so much for having me. I'm so excited, and it's so nice to see Ashley because I haven't seen her in a little while, and I'm super happy for you, Ashley. Congrats. So I'm originally from Michigan. I grew up in one of the suburbs just outside of Detroit, and then went to school at the University of Southern California, and then was in journalism for a little while at NBC, a station in Baltimore, and then USA Today. And I started a company a couple of years ago and called RIZZARR, and we focus on connecting content creators to brands and helping brands to reach millennials and Gen Zers. So I'm really excited to be here to share my experiences, to drink as I do so, and cheers.
Cheers.
Yes. Well, I think that's a good place to get started. So tell us why you felt like the RIZZARR platform was necessary. What was your why behind starting your brand?
Well, I realized that I really have been a content creator all of my life in some way. Like my high school had a TV station, and luckily from that, I was able to get my foot in the door early with journalism, which then led me in college to be able to get a great internship earlier at networks. But a lot of my friends and people that I knew had a really hard time building their portfolio. And even as I kept going in my career, kept hearing the thing like, you need to have a real world portfolio. And it's just such an annoying thing when you're like, okay, well, can you give me an experience? But they're like, but you need to go get experience. But I'm like, well, where am I going to get the experience if everyone keeps telling me I need a real world experience? So talking to I feel like I've always been like a very driven person, very gung-ho. So I would kind of find a way. But, you know, many people, even as you're being driven in all that stuff, it still can be very challenging. So I would always be the youngest person, usually in the newsroom. And I would talk to the interns and stuff. And I kept hearing that they were trying to build a portfolio. They were having a hard time. So I was thinking, like, there has to be a way where I can create a platform where they can get real world experience. I can help brands who I kept reading about who were having a hard time reaching millennials and Gen Zers, and merge the two together where people can actually live out their passions and do what they love doing and get paid doing so. So that's really where it came through. And I was just so sick of reading content that I really didn't want to read about young people, and wanting young people to have more inspirational and purpose-driven types of content.
That's awesome. And Ashley Woods just said she is fangirling right now. I love
her story.
Yeah. And I think it's so interesting, though, just to talk about your platform and just the connection, because I think that's really interesting, because you do hear that. You hear these brands who say they don't necessarily know how to connect to Gen Zers or millennials, and then vice versa. The millennials and Gen Zers who are trying to reach out to these various brands to make that connection. So I'm, glad to hear that you have a brand that connects the two, where it can be positive and impactful. What have been some of your, I guess, favorite success stories with that?
I would say probably probably JP Morgan was my favorite one, and especially because I think that hopefully that will lead to other things too. But I think even some upcoming things that we have with bridging more video and making more authentic video about like the lives of Gen Zers and millennials and things that they're going through. So I think for some upcoming partnerships, those are like, I'm really excited about those. But I think also like the American Heart Association, that was like a really fun one because we talked to a lot of different entrepreneurs. It was around the time of Detroit Startup Week too, and just hearing so many of their stories about just the grit that's needed to be an entrepreneur. Those were really inspiring.
That's awesome. I love it. Now, Ashley Woods Branch, tell us a little bit more about your journey and how it's been for you, and what made you decide to start Detour Media?
So, I have actually a lot in common with Ashley Williams. And we used to get coffee back when that was a thing that was possible for people to do. So like, it's such a treat to be here with her now. But, similarly, I was always the youngest person in the newsroom. I was a digital native in a newsroom of people who, were really involved in print. And, the drumbeat that you kept hearing was that young people don't care about the news, especially local news. Young people are disconnected. Young people don't care about issues. And I don't think that's true. I think we all care deeply. But I think that the products, which are often really conceived for 60-year-old suburban readers and not for people our age of our experiences, the product isn't made for them. So with Detour, we were really trying to make a local news experience that was something that was conceived entirely for young people and written by young people. And also really written with more of an equitable bent. And this is something I believe really truly in. Detroit stories should be reported on by Detroit reporters who live in Detroit and are invested in their communities. And as we're talking about racial equity right now, I think it's so important to support organizations like ours that we are such a small organization, but from the beginning we have said, at least 50% of our journalists will be Black. Our journalists will live in the city. Our journalists will care about the city. We will report on the city for Detroiters. And I think that makes a huge difference. And as far as Ashley talks about branding, when you build that kind of authentic relationship day in and day out with users where they trust you to report on the news fairly and they trust you to do it in a manner that's equitable, then when you have a partnership with a brand or an organization, they really take that seriously because we put so much work and effort into that relationship. So we're really beginning to see some really amazing opportunities to connect local brands, with readers. And in COVID, that couldn't be any more important, right? The one thing we're not talking about now is this has been the hardest 3 months probably for every business owner in America. And I'm one of them, right? So this drink, we really deserve this. But, I feel really good to be doing the work that I am right now. because it's authentic. And I think Ashley feels the same way. I'm sure that like, as hard as it's been, like to just be committed to kind of delivering authentic content and building a relationship with people that matters. When times are tough, you can rely on that.
Absolutely. And I think that's so important to know. And I think it's especially relevant right now because it's really important to get out stories and stories of millennials, Gen Zers, especially as we're kind of going through this shift, not only in our culture, but also in the world of like COVID-19. Like, we haven't gone through this just in this century in general. And just not only battling that, but also battling our current culture climate has been crazy. And I think it's been good to have the media along with our social media platforms and things and outlets that we can actually express ourselves and say, no, don't put this, stipulation on us. This is how we're actually feeling. This is the impact we want to make. So I think that's really important. So I'm glad that you guys have these amazing platforms where people can actually tell their stories in a positive and impactful way. So as female founders in journalism, what are some of the struggles that you guys have had? I know you talked a lot about, kind of being the youngest, but what are some of the other struggles that you found that you've had in your careers and how have you overcome that?
Ashley, you want to
start?
Where to begin?
Like, where do I begin? No. So I think the heart of it all, a couple of things. One is being a younger person in the newsroom, it's like an advantage, but also a disadvantage because you have people there who have, and I totally get it too, because they have literally worked their way, blood, sweat, and tears, getting to the top, given up holidays, time with family, etc. I remember one year when I was with the Today Show, I remember I was in New York and I had to literally walk through the Thanksgiving parade on the way to work. I was twitching. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Luckily, I moved over to a different show. Long story short, though, I mean, the sacrifices, but also knowing that you have to build a rapport and you need to also build your right to be there. And I think that takes time. And I think building that trust with your coworkers, but then at the same time, they may not be willing to let you build that trust because they're like, hey, newbie, I've been here. Who do you think you are? No. So that's one thing. But then as you get these opportunities, because of those, for me, at least because of those experiences many times and having to prove myself and like be, as much as I am nice, be very strong and authoritative. Also being one to believe in myself. I think at the end of the day, it takes a lot of gumption to be a journalist and a reporter, to be able to kind of go outside of yourself, but be still in yourself where you're having to get the story, you're figuring out a way to get the information that you need. Because at the end of the day, you have this deadline that you need to meet, or you have this story that you need to deliver. And that means you need to be kind of like the hardest on yourself with getting it. But at the same time, you have these people around you too, who are like, okay, you need to get this to me by blah, 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 blah. And I think that's a lot of pressure at times to deal with that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yes, just even hearing it, it's just like, oh my gosh. Like, like, okay, yeah, this just happened, but hey, I need this by like, 3 hours from now, but thanks, have it on my desk or whatever.
Yeah, and then the flip side of that too is the emotional part. I remember when I was in Baltimore, the story around the school shooting that happened, I can't remember, it was on the East Coast, but it was like kindergartners, like younger for preschoolers.
Oh, yeah.
I feel bad that I can't remember the name of it. Sandy Hook or something. Yes. But yeah, I remember having to figure out how to get information. I called one of the fire departments and everything, and they were describing what happened to me. And that emotional part, or like I remember reading a story in Baltimore where like the 12-year-old girl had fell through a home, like a guy kidnapped her, brought her into a home. She fell through the ceiling, they fell through, and then he raped her and just left her there to just die. And I remember reading that like at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I literally was crying as I was at the computer. So, the emotional part too of these stories, and even now more recently with all the stuff that's going on with Black Lives Matter, I mean, it can be draining.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly feel that. Yeah. Like when I was at the Detroit Free Press, right? Like you said, any major event, I was there. When there was a flooding or a school shooting or whatever, I mean, you'd be there for 21 hours a day, right? So already that knocks so many women out of track, right? Like, because you have to make such hard choices about family, you know, and like, and then also being there and being responsible. But even as you said, like, even now being a founder, you know, we run a Facebook group with about 1,000 people in it. And when COVID started, we were really the first place a lot of people were turning to for factual information that they could trust. People would say, hey, I need this. And we would try and do some like need sharing and connect people, you know, like with resources and things like that. And it was amazing. Like there were nurses who were coming up here to work and we were finding them places to live in Detroit and like having people drop food off of their boxes and stuff. Like we were really making an impact. But I was working 18 hours a day and I had a newborn baby and another kid and a husband. And it's like, and a business to run, right? So it's like, I think sometimes, you know, like when you're sharing an article on social media or you're tweeting at a journalist, it can be hard for you to see how much of ourselves we put into that work and how emotional it is and how draining it is. And most of the time we can't turn off because the news never stops, particularly if you're focused on Detroit. You know, people from across America will be like, Detroit, that's a real news city. You know, I mean, it's just stuff happens here, you know, and it's very, very hard as a woman to be able to give that much to your work over and over again while still trying to make time and make space for the people in your life that matter. So yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, and I can only imagine, but I think it's a great point that you guys bring up is tell us a little bit about how it is to be in digital media in Detroit. What's that experience like and how does it differ from, you know, your other experiences?
Actually, you go first.
Well, you know, I'm a little lucky because I'm connected to some people in the wider world, you know, particularly people that are really focused on new models in journalism. So I do feel like I have a cohort of people who are trying to do similar things to us in different parts of the country. And I really do lean on those people. And I find founders like Ashley, you know, or Amanda Lewan from Bamboo is someone I really love. But I try to find mentors, you know, and colleagues because the truth is, it is a little lonely here. This isn't Silicon Valley. There aren't a lot of us. And a lot of times we don't get the kind of funding that Silicon Valley people do. So we're working so hard that it can be difficult to do the kind of networking that I think is much easier as a founder in Chicago, New York, DC, San Francisco. What do you think, Ashley?
Yeah, I was going to say, because I think there's the great part is there's like a real sense of community here, which is really nice, where people are willing to help each other compared to maybe other markets in that sense. I mean, even with the news stories that were going on with COVID and how the different stations were like doing like a town hall together and interviewing people together, I thought was so unique and collaborative. I mean, I'm like, would they do that in DC or New York? I don't know, because they're always trying to get the story. But I also think too, because there are so many interesting stories, and which struck me particularly moving back here and everything is that there are so many people who have backgrounds in marketing or editorial. And I guess having the perspective from LA and New York, seeing that, okay, well, shoot, I guess like we still have team members in LA, but like needing they're more tech, but needing to have a market there or have markets there in media. And maybe at some point we will, but I realize that so much of it is already here, which is fantastic because, you know, there's so many great schools around for journalism as well here in Michigan. So I think there's a lot more here than people realize.
Yes, and I agree. And I think something that is so interesting that for all 3 days that we have talked about with Detroit Startup Week, with every panel discussion that we had, everyone talks about how great the community is here, and which I have to concur. I feel like my experiences with other entrepreneurs in Detroit, especially women, have been great because it's not always a battle of going against each other, but how can we collab? How can we work together? How can we build our names together? How can we, you know, kind of cross promote each other? And I think the entrepreneurial community here is just excellent. I think it's all about that Detroit grit and just knowing that, you know, you can't necessarily stand on your own, but really work with the people that are around you and just work with your community.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think that's a nice part too, because I feel like it's almost like this like abundance mindset a little bit, and also like a mindset of let's all like bring back the city and like let's all use our gifts and talents to really push it forward, which is really wonderful.
Yes, because we know where the city came from and where we're going towards and where we are now. And I think it's really important for all of us to kind of just band together and be a part of the shift versus trying to, go against each other. So I think that's great. And I think also too, if you guys can just let us know, as female founders, being in that circle, in that community, how has being or having your tribe or your group or your support system of women really helped you guys kind of along the way in terms of support or even guiding you to the next big deal or next big break? How has that been, just having a good community of women to help you do those?
You want to go first?
Oh, sure. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, most of my closest female friends are entrepreneurs in one way or another. Like all four of them. And that's an amazing thing, right? But other than that, something I'm really grateful about is like, I moved to Detroit when I started going to college at Wayne State. And I moved to the city pretty shortly thereafter. And I was lucky enough in those next couple of years to meet a lot of women who they were in their early 30s when I was in my early 20s, right? And a lot of them really kind of like adopted me and helped grow me. They introduced me to people. They let me tag along to things. I watched them. I learned from them. I learned a lot about how to talk to people and how to position my brand and how to make connections from them. And I think now as I get a little older, like it's on me to find those women in their early 20s and do the same thing. We have a new intern through a great program, placing minority journalism interns called the Emma Bowen Foundation out of NBC Universal. And she sat in on like my sponsorship calls today because even if she's not doing that, I want her to understand the business side of journalism, even if she never does it, so she can protect herself, right? And so she's armed with all the information to walk into a newsroom and be able to protect herself, because that's how I can give back to those women 10 years younger than me, the way that the women 10 years older than me, like really, really helped me get to where I am now.
Oh, so lovely. Yes, exactly. That's, well, I have to say too, because when I think about my friends as well, most of them are all female entrepreneurs and I feel like it's almost like we're growing together, which is so nice to see. And it's not like this like rivalry thing or a competitive thing. It's like we really are like, rooting for each other to succeed and helping each other. I mean, I know like even with Ashley, I'll like email Ashley or she'll email me, whatever else. Like we're always there to support each other. And I think that's so needed. And then for the future generations, especially, like, I feel like the more that we can empower, like they can see this and we can empower them to realize that we don't have to be like, we can be collaborative, the more it will shape their perspective. Because so much of like the media, unfortunately, or like movies have shown women to be backstabby. And I feel like this is showing the opposite of that. And I hope that it can continue the ripple effect in that way of changing that too.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And I think even for me, a lot of the connections I made, because my background is in auditing. So I went to school in Alabama, came back, I was in corporate for 6 years. So for me to even dive into entrepreneurship, it's not like I knew anybody in my field or even really knew a lot of entrepreneurs. Like I literally had to build from the bottom up. When I started Sumptuous Spirits in 2016, it's like, okay, I'm just going to attend this conference. And it just literally trickled from there, where you meet other women who are passionate about their businesses and want to work together and see other people win. Or, you know what, I know this person who needs this. I'm going to introduce you to them. Or, hey, I'm going to a networking event. You'll do well. I'm going to have you come with me. And that has really been, the word of mouth for me personally has brought us where we are now. And like you said, it's just giving back and making sure that you still lifting as you're climbing. As you're climbing up, you're able to help someone else. As you're doing things and know of people that, you know, may be good connected, I think it's always good to make those connections. So like you guys said, it's really good just to have a good community of people, especially other female founders who can, you know, who can be that support when you need it, or be that push when you need it, or even make.
But there is something else too, and I want to point this out, at least for me. I was very lucky too, because there were men in leadership roles in the companies where I started small who also saw me and gave me opportunities and opened the door. And I see we have some on this chat, and I just want to say this because this is really important. I would not be where I am today if there were like good men sitting at those leadership tables who said, you know what, she cares, she's smart, she can work hard, I can like let her in.
Absolutely.
But like, if they hadn't let me in, I wouldn't have gotten it. And there's a lot you can say for female kinship, but at the end of the day, a lot of times men still control who gets to sit at the table.
Yeah.
And like, that is something as a man that you can do this month, right? Or this year, is look around your organization and see, like, is there a woman there who is really smart and is like working her ass off, right? Who could be doing more? Could I invest in her a little bit? Could I just see what happened if she had an opportunity? Because if I didn't have that, I don't know if I would have had the confidence.
Boop, 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 boop. Yeah. You're in.
Yes. All the gems, Ashley, all the gems. And I think it's good for you to note that too, you know, to also, outside of just having your good group of female founders, it's also good who, you know, to have men who are there to really, you know, they understand that sometimes, you know, women can be excluded, and that's not necessarily intentionally, but making sure we also have that seat at the table. So I think that's
grooming us too. I mean, in that sense, I think I'm happy, and I'm very thankful for my male mentors in my life too, for helping me to even be more bold and to stand in my own in that sense, and like to know that I also can have a seat at the table.
Yeah. Yeah.
Agreed to all of those things, guys. So tell us, what do you guys think about the future of digital media in Detroit? What does that look like for us?
Actually, I don't like you going to answer first because I feel like this is totally her realm and I can speak to her.
No. I mean, so I will say this, like, we are witnessing right now an absolute breakdown in legacy media, right? I'm sorry, I've got a puppy barking at me, so I got to give her a...
We're at home. Kenneth said hi to the dog. What's your dog's name?
You know, so like, we're seeing the breakdown of a lot of like legacy corporate media operations. And, you know, like, this is really a moment, I think, for kind of upstart digital media brands like RIZZARR and Detour Detroit to kind of take the step to become the thing, right? And like, and that moment is here. Like, our abilities to kind of like control the user experience and really optimize it, I think, are better than ever in terms of software and tools. I really think in terms of sponsorship and opportunities, they're here more than ever. You know, and I'm really looking, I think the future is, you know, like brands like ours that are independent, obsessed with the user experience, focused on equity, trying to do the right thing, and not these corporate-owned shareholder kind of like, you know, very dinosaur, frankly, organizations. I think that's coming sooner than we think. You know, and it's really exciting to be here. What do you think, Ashley?
Yeah, no, it is like, yes, I think it's like, oh, little cutie.
Oh, look at the dog.
This is Patsy Cline.
So cute. Yeah, I think it's so cute. I just think people are more woke now, and they're getting more woke. And I think the interesting part is, like, with COVID, I feel like there was just like, even having to sit still, you know, in the quarantine and kind of just think about things more. But I think it made people more aware of what's really going on in the world, because now it's like, we're not running around. We're not like in the day-to-day, we're in the day-to-day of things, we're like able to just kind of reflect more. And I think people are realizing not only is there a need for more vigilant local news, like what Ashley and her team deliver, and like more thought-provoking and more community-driven news, but I think there is also a need as well to have more citizenship in that journalism, which is what they also do. And what also with RIZZARR is the idea of having people be able to supply their ideas, their thoughts, their experiences to shaping our communities. And it really kind of like this activism approach of changing things, making people aware, making people more woke. And as a result of that, I think brands are saying too, they're going to have to shift in the types of media they're supplying, they're supporting, they're sponsoring to be able to also supply in that shift, or else people are not going to want to participate and putting their buying power with them. So it's nice to see how many brands as well have become more woke and are becoming more woke. And I think it's also going to just kind of, again, propel this other ripple effect of more conscientiousness in the world, where people are not just creating media for media's sake, but there better be some purpose-driven effort behind that media that you're supplying.
Agreed, because I feel like people can, especially nowadays, we see all through that. I feel like just having that authentic and organic news, like you said, with people who are in the community, who can actually understand and speak from the perspective of other people in that community is so important. Because you can read right through it a lot of times. It's like, okay, who wrote this article? You don't live here. You know, like, do you even really know what's going on? Like, I don't know who you're speaking about or in the perspective of. So I think it's really good.
And I think too, like in Detroit, you know, we have a little bit of a jump start on the rest of the country in discussing these issues, right? Like, I mean, this is where the riots, the uprising of '67, however you want to call it, happened. We had decades of disinvestment and economic segregation. We had the recession. You know, like we've tried to come back from this. I think this, even though there's a lot, this area still needs to do to be better. I feel like, especially people who are young founders or who are really involved in Detroit, we've been trying to grapple with these issues on our own for a long time. And, you know, it's a relief, I think, to finally see some of the rest of the world start to pay attention. You know, and I guess, you know, for anybody here, it is important to keep asking your brands, so what are they doing after last? Like maybe they shared something on Instagram last week, but like, where are they now? Right? And like, we need to hold companies to better standards. Like, I don't just employ Black writers so like somebody would like pat me on the back. I do it because they're the best at what they do. And that makes my company better. And like, we can all think that way, but like, we need to hold ourselves accountable, right? And I think like, that's something that I really hope for this generation too, that we can like, share this kind of accountability to just build better companies than the generation before.
Agreed. You guys have dropped so many gems today, and I think this has been such a good conversation. I want to leave people with this. What advice do you have for other entrepreneurs or founders, people who are in digital media, whatever last kind of antidote you want to leave with them? What are some advice that you give to other entrepreneurs?
Ashley goes first.
I love how you guys keep calling each other. Okay, Ashley, you go ahead.
That's funny. I would say, you know, the thing is, entrepreneurship really, and it's kind of resonating with me more as we're in this stage. It really is a marathon, you know, and it's like, it's a huge journey of you discovering who you are and what's in you. And it's also a huge journey of you discovering the hypotheses that you had about the company that you're creating and what you're putting into the world. To me, RIZZARR is nowhere near the vision that I truly have for the company, but I know it's a progression. And over time, as it has progressed, I've also progressed. I've also gotten better. Not only, God willing, I hope so too, people feel this way as an entrepreneur, but also just as a human being in general, and being more compassionate, more woke, more understanding of the using my gifts, my light, and bringing that forth in the world, and not feeling kind of like scared about it, or like doubting myself, or in fear of what if, but pushing past that. And I feel like entrepreneurship is about pushing past all of that crap, breaking all that crap out, and then finally pushing through into who it is that you were called to be and who it is that you are, and using those gifts as to why you're here and what it is that you want to do and putting that in the world. And if anything into that whole realm is just to keep pushing forward. It doesn't matter about today. It doesn't matter about tomorrow. It doesn't matter about your past or what happened. What matters is what you believe about yourself and what is possible. Because there is going to be a whole bunch of, I won't use the S word, that's going to hit the fan. Okay. And there's going to be a lot of that's going to hit the fan. But if you can keep pushing and believing in yourself and surrounding yourself with people who also believe in you too, get rid of the crap people, because we have many of those in our lives, and really choose to surround yourself with people who see the best in you and want the best in you to come forward. And as you do that along the marathon, you'll keep getting to where it is that you ultimately aspire to be. And it is a journey, but you will get there.
Yes, I'll drink to that. That was a good one.
Me too. I'm going to drink to that.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know how much I have to say that improves at that. I just, like, I would be lying, what I said when I started this off. I'd be lying if I didn't say that this hadn't been the hardest 3 months of my professional career, right? And there's been so many nights where I've just lain awake wondering, am I going to have to lay off my team, or what's it going to look like a year from now, or what happens if local businesses don't come back? But I think entrepreneurship, really it's an ultimate test of character. Yeah. And every day, it is kind of asking you, what do you want your story to be? Who do you want to be when you're 70 years old and you look back on your life? What do you want to say that you did? And for me, it's really, like Ashley said, your vision is so different from what it ends up being, or, it's not the same as this glorious thing that you envision. It isn't about getting interviewed or doing happy hours or, getting on the stock exchange or whatever. For a couple of people who are unicorns, that happens. But in some ways, I'm grateful that it's not, because what I do have is deep, meaningful, true work, and giving people, the people that work for me, they're wonderful and magnificent. And I hope I'm creating an environment where they learn and grow and feel really autonomous and confident to build their own careers. And with the collaborations and partnerships that we do, I feel the same way. And it's, even though this is so hard, it is so meaningful because of the character that is building in me. And because I know that I will look back when I'm 70 years old and I will be grateful that I took a journey and that I took the risk. And it doesn't matter how it pans out, because, like Ashley said, this is the path. And we get to choose it every day. And, we have some drinks and some laughs along the way, and we do the best we can.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, you get gems today. Okay, everybody's been dropping gems. I really appreciate it, ladies. Now we're going to open it up for Q&A, just in case anyone has any questions. And I'd like to leave with our last question in terms of the questions that I have. But again, if you guys have questions, please put them in the chat. If you guys could have a cocktail with anyone, living or deceased, who would it be and what would you have? I'll start with you, Ashley Williams. I feel like you already know who you have.
I was going to say either Sarah Blakely, for someone who's alive, and I hope one day I meet her, because I just she's just amazing. But probably JP Morgan, or one of the Rockefeller, either JP Morgan or actually any of the three of them out of that movie or that documentary, The Men Who Built America. JP Morgan, Rockefeller, or Carnegie. I would just want to pick their brain just for an hour, just asking them a whole bunch of different questions about stuff. And what would I drink? Probably, I'm going to try to hold my own, although Rockefeller didn't drink. So if I was Rockefeller, I wouldn't have had a drink with him. I would have tea. But other people, I probably would try to have a martini, dry.
I like that.
I mean, this is going to sound awful because I'm very interested in Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi, but not for the reason of like, you're an amazing person. Like, that is true. But I would like to pour them a bourbon and be like, so like, how did you go from being a man with an idea to building a movement? And what did that feel like in the early years? And how was it to be like alive with these ideas and beliefs, but have to convince people day after day who thought that what you were saying was ridiculous or could never happen, right? Like there's, I mean, other than like just the like sheer respect, like there's real questions I have there of like, how do you change hearts and minds? I don't know. I think that'd be fascinating. And also like, I don't know, seeing Gandhi drink a bourbon would probably be kind of
would be so dope, right? Like I feel like you probably would love it.
Okay.
Cool. I know me if I was to do it. And he's actually a Detroit entrepreneur, Detroit-based entrepreneur, William Pickard. He wrote the book Millionaire Moves. He's very active here in our city locally. And I've actually had the opportunity to actually speak with him and be on a panel with him early in my entrepreneurial journey. I think, well, I'll say probably like 2017, 2018. He thought my idea was great as I was building with Sumptuous Spirits. And he said, okay, so when are you going to leave your job? Because at the time I was still an auditor and I was in grad school, finishing up my MBA. And I'm like, well, no, like I like doing both. And, I love my lifestyle. I'm not going to leave until I reach where I am now fiscally to continue to maintain my lifestyle. He said, okay, girl, well, that's not going to happen, but you have to go low and then you go back up, especially jumping into full-time entrepreneurship. And if I was to sit down with him now, I'd be like, oh my God, you were so right. Like literally everything he said in terms of, it's going to be an adjustment because you go from your corporate environment to then running your own business. Especially when you're in corporate, you're running your own, when you're in corporate, if things are good or bad, at the end of that month or every 2 weeks, you're still going to get that same paycheck. When you're an entrepreneur, when things don't go right, especially in the atmosphere we're in now, in the COVID-19 world, as you see, all of that changes. And it's really taught me as an entrepreneur to really learn how to hone into that pivot, which is something that I've really appreciated. So I would actually I would do that. I would definitely sit down with William Pickard. I feel like he likes a good cognac on the rocks. So I would want to sit down and sit with him. So that's probably that way.
He's amazing.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. We really appreciate you guys for this amazing conversation. It's been great. Kenneth said he loves cognac. I do too. So we're going to be friends. I want to thank all of you guys for coming in and being with us. I see Monica popping in.
I just want to say thank you
Monica.
guys. This was awesome conversation, and I so appreciate you guys doing this. I hope everybody has a good weekend, and this was awesome. This was a really great way to end my week, so it was good to hear you guys chat. So thank you.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you. And I'll be here. I know somebody, I think it was Kenneth that asked. Jacob said Pastor Cavassier. Jacob, listen. Jacob has been awesome this week. Jacob and I need to sit down in person and have a good cocktail. I know he's going to be great. So thank you guys. I'll be here. I'm hopping, a few tables for a little bit. If you guys want to continue to network, and I'll be here. But Ashley Woods Branch and Ashley and Williams, let people know how they can find you on social media.
Yeah, most of my platforms, I'm just like Ash M like Michelle Will, and also just on RIZZARR and all those social things.
Yeah, and just find Detour Detroit online. I think I'm Ashley Woods Branch on Instagram. I don't know. You'll see lots of pictures of babies, and you'll know you made it to the right place. Y'all are both wonderful. I'll be in touch with both of you. I'll see you soon.
Yes, I like that.
It's what my 6-year-old does to me all the time. Bye. Bye.